going on, everybody? First of all, welcome. Thank you guys so much for coming and taking the time to hang out with us. This is the very first ever Consequence of Sound top note sessions that we're holding here at the Metro, so we definitely want to thank the Metro first for having us. Also want to thank our lovely sponsor, Miller Lite, for hooking us up with the fine refreshments that they have offered us and all of you as well. And we're extremely excited, extremely honored to have our very first guests. Guys, round of applause, please, for Steve and Aaron of The Hood Internet.
Thanks.
How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And by the way, guys, if you'd like to email them photos so that they can Photoshop them live as we're conducting the interview, hoodphotoshops@gmail.com.
Well, we'll be doing this on the side, so we can get right into it.
Exactly, yeah. Well, again, thank you guys so much for taking the time to do this.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks. And again, your new album, Feet, already out.
It is. It came out October 2nd.
October 2nd, the album came out. And just to let you guys know, for all you guys that came here tonight, you guys are going to be getting signed copies of their brand new album on vinyl.
Yeah.
So
12 inches, y'all.
12 inches of musical goodness. First question I want to ask you guys, too, is that, the new album is your first album featuring all original material, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so, how did you decide that this was going to be the album to put all that original material on, as opposed to, maybe mixing it in with a couple mashups and stuff?
Why don't you get to work on this, and I'll answer the question.
I'll Photoshop.
We wanted, we come from a background of playing in bands together and just recording and making our own music. And with the Hood Internet, we sort of established ourselves as doing, making mashups and mixtapes and eventually sort of doing some live DJing. So we wanted to make a record of new music that felt like an extension of what the Hood Internet does. So the idea for who we would choose to work with is people that we might have sampled anyway, or people that we had already sampled for Hood Internet tracks in the past, so that it would seem like a a natural progression of what we had done, but a batch of completely new songs.
When you guys create songs and create music, do you try to tap into all your influences when creating music, or are there certain tracks where you just try to stick to one specific genre? Because again, with this album, you've got elements of electronic, elements of hip-hop, indie rock, and then you've got collaborators on here like AC Newman and Psalm 1. So when creating music, do you try to reach tap into all your influences and try to expand your genre or your sound as much as possible?
I don't think we have any rules with specific tracks. I think what we try to do is leave it pretty open. And so, like you said, we try to tap into all those different genres that we tend to work with. Mm-hmm. But I think, if we did that for every song, it'd get kind of messy. And so sometimes it does get a little messy, but generally I think we just kind of, and it goes back and forth as we're working on tracks where we might start with some pieces and then add more elements and then take some away. Mm-hmm. So we try to do it as a full record, but not necessarily for each track.
What is harder when it comes to creating music? Is it the original material or putting together a mashup?
Original material's definitely harder. It definitely takes longer. That we had to actually work on, getting people in the studio, that sort of stuff. With the mashups, we can just kind of do that wherever, on our couch, on a plane. All it just takes is our computer. So there's not as much legwork for that. But that's a little bit why this record took us 3 years to do, because we spent, lots of time putting together collaborators, getting in touch with people. Right,
and I read that when you guys were trying to put this record together that you wanted, it was kind of hard wrangling everybody's schedule, because I know you wanted everybody involved throughout every single phase to see the progression of the album, right?
Yeah, it definitely took us a while because we had very specific people we wanted to work with, and as we were working on it, we met new people and had other people that we got in touch with. So some of it came together pretty organically, and some of it was pretty planned out that we wanted to get specific people on the record.
Was it easy to get these people to come and collaborate on your record? Was this just years of building up relationships, or were there just some people you reached out to on a whim and were like, hey, be on our record?
We basically just gave them tacos and free beer. That's how we get anyone to do anything with us, and people respond to that.
All right. And I know that you guys have been doing mashups for a few years now, and I have to ask you first of all, Steve, the Judgment Night soundtrack.
Huge influence.
Yes, I was wondering about that because I know that soundtrack was one of the first to incorporate the idea of a mashup with hip hop and rock and roll. So what did that album mean to you when you first heard it?
In high school, I was only mildly receptive to rap and hip hop. I didn't actively dislike it, but it just, like I was too busy being alternative. I was wearing flannel shirts around my waist. I had I had an agenda.
As you do.
And but that soundtrack I thought was just really, it was really ahead of its time. I mean, this is in 95 or 96
Right.
when it came out, and the movie was terrible. I don't know if you saw the movie.
No, the movie sucked.
Yeah, it was terrible. But the soundtrack, I mean, this was a record that was pairing Sonic Youth with Cypress Hill, Dinosaur Jr. with Adele the Funky Homo Sapien,
Right.
Faith No More with the Booyah Tribe. Like, it was really awesome, and it sort of predated, a really terrible era of rap rock that included like Limp Bizkit and Korn, and just it kind of went downhill. So
Right.
it was this sort of glimpse of what could have been, and then it sort of, nothing really went that way.
But upon hearing that album, did you say to yourself, one of these days I'm going to make music that is going to fuse these two elements together, or was it just something you really liked and then you just accidentally fell into it later on down the line?
I think it just influenced, it was something that influenced me later on. I didn't have any plans to make any sort of records other than like records that sounded like Green Day when I was in high school.
And I mean, like when you guys create your mashups, I noticed that you tend to combine mostly hip hoppers with indie rock, and you try to stay away mostly from like the mainstream rock tracks for the most part, from what I've seen. I mean, does it take a while though for your fans to get into the music, to get into the mashup specifically, because sometimes they may not recognize the artist that you're mashing somebody up with?
I think usually, and I would actually say we don't really stay away from the pop spectrum too much. Maybe like mainstream rock stuff. We're not we're not really
specifically
going
what
out of our way to sample Nickelback, but
Not yet.
yeah. But I mean, pop stuff is totally on limits. And I think that a lot of things that we hear from people that talk to us at like the mixtapes is that they really enjoyed part A but weren't familiar with part B, or vice versa. Which is awesome because that, if anything good can come out of this, that's that.
Because I read too that there were a couple of mashups that you guys were making, I believe, like earlier when you guys were first starting out, and in a sense, it was almost like you were kind of trolling the audience, just because you would create certain mashups, certain hip hop artists, and you would blend them with indie rock artists that people didn't really want to hear that specific hip hopper with.
There were certainly some title-based puns. I remember you did a Ludacris and Bande du Roll mashup specifically so you could use the title Bande du Roll Out.
I don't know if that's trolling. I mean, I think that's just the internet.
Well,
That's a good point.
Well, no, because I mean, sometimes when you're creating a mashup, I mean, obviously it's not just simply slapping two tracks together. You've obviously got to worry about pitch and tone and whatnot. But I mean, sometimes do you just create mashups to essentially just mess with the audience, or are you just creating stuff like essentially? Have you ever reached out to your audience and be like, what would you guys like to hear? Or do you just create what you feel would be cool, like, at the time?
No, we've never reached out to our audience. Sometimes we'll get emails of people, like, suggesting, like, they've come up with, like, the best idea for a mashup ever.
Right.
And, like, they decide, like, at, like, 3 a.m. that they need to email us to be like, make this mashup now. I don't think we've ever taken any of those suggestions.
But what do you guys think of other producers such as Girl Talk and Madion? When you listen to what they have to put out with their mixes and whatnot, I mean, do you listen to it and you go, whatever, or do you think about it and just go, okay, that's not bad. I kind of like what he's doing, maybe, or like, do you ever draw influence from anything that they might have ever done?
I'd say for the most part, I don't think either of us really listen to a whole lot of other mashup artists. Not so much because we're not into the art form, if you want to use the word art form for it. Is there a better word for it, Steve? Artless form, art. But I think part of that is that we just spend enough time hearing our own music that like to listen to other stuff and don't really want to kind of be influenced by that. So we don't want to kind of use the same ideas. We're kind of drawing from the same tracks as other people.
Sure.
So I don't think don't really have strong feelings one way or the other about kind of what other people are doing in similar formats. Definitely, like Girl Talk puts on a great show.
Right.
Really inspired by, some of his records, but other than that, not a whole lot.
Something else I wanted to ask you guys too is, do you think that mashups, maybe like, do you feel that they're almost kind of past their prime? Because I remember that back in like 2004, 2005, when mashups were all the rage, and even like that Jay-Z Linkin Park collaboration album that came out. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Do you clearly So it would be stupid of me to ask if you were a fan of said album.
No, it wouldn't be stupid at all.
Steve has that on vinyl, actually.
Signed by the band.
Signed by Chester Bennington himself.
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm not a huge Linkin Park fan. I don't dislike the idea of it. He sort of, I would say that Jay-Z quickly distanced himself from that project shortly after it came out. And because of what you're saying, like in 2004, 2005, people were like, "Oh my God, it's amazing! Two things put together, holy shit!" And then, like everything, the very fickle music public kind of got past it pretty quickly, and we showed up like way after that.
Because I was gonna say, I mean, like, is there a really? Do you think that there's a real high demand right now for mashups? I mean, when you guys are creating them and putting them up online on YouTube, I mean, some of them are getting like a ton of hits, but then, do you ever get discouraged when you throw some of them up online and they only get like 1,000 or 2,000 hits? You're like, oh, clearly that's not the one we want to play live.
Honestly, and I'm not just playing the humble card here, like, we are super psyched that anyone even listens to the shit that we do in the first place. I'm serious, and it's, we have tracks that people like more than other ones, and I think that's just, people's receptiveness to what's hot, like, the most recent track that we put up was a mixture of Juicy J and Black Moss Super Rainbow. And, people were like, I mean, that Juicy J song is huge right now, and the new Black Moss Super Rainbow record is amazing. But, people are just kind of like, no one really like went crazy about it on SoundCloud. And that doesn't, I don't know if that discourages us or encourages us one way or the other. Because we're going to just make another thing and then put that up
right,
too.
because I'm saying, you're not creating these mashups, I think it all goes back again to the idea of the audience reaching out to you and asking you, oh, can you mash up X and Y to create Z? I mean, at the end of the day, you're creating these mashups for yourselves, and then, like, whoever likes it, right?
Yeah. I think what attracts people, because I don't think there is a high demand for mashups. There's I think a small handful of people that do this same thing that we do that people are even paying attention to. And of that, it's under like, a lot of people are like, oh, whatever, that shit's over. Fuck this. Let's listen to some Moonbatone. Let's listen to some trap. Like they're on to the next already.
Right.
And, we are sitting here photoshopping roast beef sandwiches onto pictures of cats.
Next to dehumidifiers.
Musically and and literally.
Yes. Clearly the mashup will never die. What are your thoughts right now on the current EDM scene then? And then like all the DJs and producers that are coming out right now. Are you fans of any in particular? Do you follow it? To
tell you the truth, I mean, EDM, I think, just became like sort of a genre name. I want to say last year or the year before. Like, before that, it was just like electronic music or like whatever. So now it's EDM. I got a text from someone the other day who said there was a big EMD festival coming up. Like, people are already mixing the shit up. I listen to some of that stuff, but honestly, and maybe Aaron, you can chime in with what you've been listening to. But I see that you're very busy right now.
You're very busy with that Arby's sandwich right now.
It's not something that I'm like deeply entrenched in. I think going back to what you said earlier about kind of all the genres represented on the new Hood Internet record, I think that we're both still in that same world, just kind of listening to a little bit of everything all the time.
Are there any specific artists to stay away from EDM to electronic, techno, whatever you want to call it? I mean, are there any that you listen to and you're like, I like what he's trying to achieve. I like where he's going.
The new, this new record by Daphne, which is an alias of Dan Snaith from Caribou, is, I don't know if that's, would you consider that electronic dance music? It's electronic. Yeah. You can dance to it.
I would.
That's kind of my new jam.
Okay.
I have not danced to it yet to figure out like if it works.
I'll show you. I have moves. I can do a two-step and a foxtrot.
I'm saying, do you
moves like Jaeger? Yeah.
When people go to your shows now and they're dancing and having a good time and partying and stuff, I mean, do you guys, in a sense, when you're up there DJing, do you almost consider yourself a part of this new dance music movement now? I mean, do you guys put yourselves in that category, or how would you best classify your specific type of sound right now if you had to classify yourself?
I don't know. I think it's hard to classify because we pull from different music, so I don't think that we like fit in one scene exactly. Because I don't think there's much of a mashup scene. So I don't think that we have like a specific like genre, like we're only playing like this specific type of house music.
Right.
So I think that we kind of, blur some lines, and so I think that shows up on our shows. I think people come to our shows who are into all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Oh God. Now you guys have also played Lollapalooza, right? You
Yeah.
guys performed at the Lollapalooza festival.
It was a while back, 4 years ago. Steve, does that sound right? Yeah. Okay. We did have a giant computer, so we had a friend paint this giant, like, old Apple IIe computer, and we had giant floppy disks that we put in it at the start of the show. You can probably find that on YouTube somewhere if you want to see it.
What was that like for you as a band? I mean, because you guys are Chicago based, and I mean now you get the call to be like, hey, we want you to play Lollapalooza. I mean, for you guys, what was that like? Oh, that makes it look so much cooler.
Our expressions looked like that. Looked like Grimace smiling.
Nice.
It was really cool. I think that was definitely one of those festivals that we definitely wanted to play. Like you said, Chicago, Lollapalooza. I think growing up, that was always kind of like the big festival.
Right.
So yeah, that was a really like exciting thing for us. Had a great crowd.
You guys plan to hopefully play it again, maybe next summer?
Yeah, we'd like to play it any summer that they would have us. All summers.
All in every summer. Why not?
Yes.
And then, being Chicago-based, I want to know, too, like, what does Chicago mean to you guys? I mean, is this a city that you could, like, draw inspiration from? Is this aww?
Steve, you should answer this question since you live in Chicago.
Early on in the Hood Internet career, like really when we first started getting people to kind of pay attention to what we were doing on the internet, one of the first things we wanted to do was like make a love letter to Chicago, because a lot of the people we were meeting, like just a lot of the DJs and MCs, which coming from kind of a rock band background, we only knew so many of them. Everyone was really welcoming to us, very forgiving of our amateurish nature, and so we made a mixtape like within the first year of doing the Hood Internet called The Hood Internet versus Chicago, and it had all these Chicago artists on there, like just trying to get as go for it as many people as possible that we either knew or didn't. And I think that just going out to shows and hearing new bands from Chicago and like seeing old legends continues to like permeate what we do. Really over time, all the shit you hear, like everything kind of influences you, whether you think it's happening or not. And there's a lot of that happening in Chicago.
Are there any specific, like maybe like up and coming Chicago bands right now that you might be listening to that you're a fan of?
I'm a big fan of Oscillator Bug, who's opening the show tonight.
All right.
Hot new shit. Touched by Ghoul is a great band. Tight Phantoms is about to put out their long-awaited double record. That's not a new band by any stretch,
right.
But Post Honeymoon is a band that we've known for a while that is making some cool and interesting stuff. In terms of like production stuff, Supreme Cuts is amazing. I mean, they're just like blowing everybody away in the production game right now. R. Kelly's new record is called Black Panties. So
Trapped in the Closet.
That's
November
a thing.
23rd.
Yeah, new Trapped in the Closet this month.
It's gonna be amazing.
But really, I mean, like it's the people, like Psalm 1 and My Gold Mask that we like get to do shows with and get to work with, who we think are the best.
Actually, what I want to do now is turn the mics to our. I don't know if they're an attractive crowd. I really can't see. All these lights are really bright up here. That guy looks pretty handsome. That one right there. Yeah. Hey, what's up, buddy? How are you? No, but we're going to turn the mics to you guys right now. Do you guys have any, does anyone have a specific question they'd like to ask the Hood Internet?
Hey, I want to ask, I like your sneakers, red and green, Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Starkula.
No doubt. I thought it was cool, that's flavor. I respect that.
Thank you.
Was that a question? That was an amazing. Round of applause for that question, ladies and gentlemen. That was fantastic.
Calamari astronaut, y'all gonna find out later.
That was the greatest question I've ever heard in my life. I like those sneakers. Respect.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
You guys have a favorite Tupac or Biggie track that really stands apart from the rest?
Do you want to answer that in two parts? My favorite Tupac song is Picture Me Rollin'.
My favorite Biggie track is Juicy.
There you go. Simple, easy, elegant. You got a question right over here?
So, you guys use Ableton, I presume. So with A/B mashups, which you get sort of known for,
what about it takes two people? I'm not trying to sound like an asshole, but like, how do you guys use, like what parts do you do? How do you make that work with two people? I guess my question.
That's such an asshole question.
Get this guy out of here. Fuck this dude.
Can't you just compliment our shoes? No, that's a great question, actually. It's because we get this a lot. People wonder if we're working on them together. Usually for like the mashups that we do, we'll do them on our own. Sometimes we'll send them back and forth, like to get feedback or to say, hey, is this working, or have any ideas for this. But for those, really, it's kind of a one-person job. For the things on our record, those are things, especially if we do remixes or stuff like that, those are things where we'll be working on them and we'll be sending them back and forth. I don't know if it takes two people, but I think it helps. It definitely allows us to get different ideas on it. And with the mashups, having two people definitely allows us to put out more tracks. It'd be hard for one person to do.
If you guys were gonna battle each other, DJ versus DJ, who would be the better DJ? Between the two.
I can answer that.
Go for it.
I think, in working together with Aaron over so many years, I think in terms of live DJing, I might get it, but in terms of production, I think that's you. So
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
You good with that?
Yeah. In terms of saying nice things, totally you.
Oh man. Is there a specific mashup that you've always dreamed of doing but just haven't gotten around to doing yet? Yeah, I know it's a good
I've
one.
had this acapella of Grandmaster Flash the Message for about forever, and for a while I was really, really, really trying to mix it with television Marquee Moon, and it was a colossal failure, but I kept trying and it just became more and more of a failure. So I guess that's something I've tried to do, but one thing we learned along the way is that you cannot force it, otherwise it's just gonna be miserable.
I don't think that's kept us from forcing it sometimes, though.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Have there ever been times though when you've DJ'd live and you've tried maybe doing something on the fly and it just immediately didn't work and you knew it?
I can't think of anything we've done on the fly that's been. We've definitely had some things happen that are not so good. But usually it's not because we're trying to do anything too creative, it's because there's equipment issues or something like that.
Well, because how often do you guys actually do stuff on the fly? How often are you actually making it up as you go, as opposed to actually creating a set list or having an idea as to where you want to go, maybe an outline?
We don't usually have a set list or even an outline. There's certainly similar things that we'll do from night to night just because they tend to work. But we're not really also mixing tracks, making mashups together, on the fly.
Right.
Those ones sound very good. So usually we're mixing stuff that we've already made and just doing it like a DJ set.
So is it different than between a live show and then maybe an after party you may DJ afterwards?
Yeah, an after party usually means that we'll stop playing our songs and play an hour of tracks featuring 2 Chainz. Usually. So those tend to be just a little more free form.
We got a question right here. 2 of them actually. Who am I gonna go to first?
Would you ever do a mashup of country music or anything crazy, if you got an acapella of some Middle Eastern music, would you do a mashup with that?
If we were feeling the song, if it's something we genuinely liked or maybe just kind of liked, I think so. You did a country mashup that is unreleased.
I did.
And what was the song?
It was, what is that song?
Something is drunk and I need you now.
Who is that?
I don't know.
But who did you mix it with?
I mixed it with All I Do Is Win.
Yeah, I wish we had...
Lady Antebellum, is that what that is?
Lady Antebellum is correct.
Yeah, sometimes when we're touring, we'll get sick of whatever we're listening to and we'll go listen to some radio stations and spend a good amount of time on the top 40 country stuff. And pretty much if you do about 8 songs worth, you'll hear all the songs that are playing. And so we'll get inspired sometimes by them, but usually it does not turn into a mashup.
We got another question right over here, actually.
I have really been enjoying a lot of the stuff you've actually been producing for other people. You did a couple of tracks with BBU, really been enjoying that stuff. It seems to me like that would be a totally different thing than mashups, sort of creating a landscape for a particular song as opposed to taking, 2 discrete things and mashing them. I'm just wondering what the difference is for you guys creatively, whatever, between producing and mashups?
Well, sort of what I was saying earlier about the way that we made this record. We come from a background of like making and recording our own music. So with mashups, and especially with Hood Internet mashups, you know, what people find appealing about it is that they recognize some of the parts already. So I think that when we try to produce stuff, it becomes this influence of like, you know, this influence of everything that we listen to, and we want to make like, you know, tracks that you could maybe dance to, or maybe just sort of wear a lobster costume and sit on your couch. Nice. But there are challenges within that, you know, trying to make like an interesting song structure, trying to, you know, do all the mixing and like kind of getting everything in the right frequency, that when we do mashups, that stuff is kind of already done for us. So that, you know, producing music for other people is super fun and very rewarding, but, you know, is a whole new set of challenges in the same breath.
What, if any, day jobs did you have / do you currently have?
I'm a professional photoshopper. I actually used to be the art director right over a couple hundred feet. Is it even a couple hundred feet? At Metro and Smart Bar. I worked here for about 5 years doing like the websites and flyers and making screen printed posters and that sort of thing. But I left that job so I could focus on touring, which is it's a little hard to go on tour and keep a day job. Your boss might get mad if you're gone for a month.
Were there any specific places that you went and played and you were just like, I'd rather not come back here ever again?
I don't want to disrespect Sparks, Nevada, but that.
Oh, man.
And maybe Pittsburgh.
And maybe Pittsburgh.
Hula hoopers.
There were some hula hoopers in Pittsburgh. I don't want to disrespect the hula hoopers. But it's, you know, for playing dance music, sometimes, you know, playing on a Tuesday night can be tough. Because people aren't trying to come out and dance on a Tuesday.
I don't feel like Tuesday night is the night for dancing.
For some people it is.
But for most, it's like,
Yeah.
no. It's
a school night.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
We just have to get more popular either with our music or with our live photoshopping. Maybe we could incorporate this into our set. What do you think?
You think that's even possible? I mean, well, yeah, if you're the better DJ, he can handle photoshopping, and there you go, you got it all. You've got it all worked out, don't you?
All right, that's some good insight. I like
There you
that.
go. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for taking the
Thank
time.
you.
Really do appreciate it. Guys,
Thank you
round
all
of
for
applause
coming.
for
Thank you
the
so
Internet,
much.
please.
Thank you for
Thank
all
you
the
guys again
photos.
for hanging out. This is the very first of Consequence of Sound Top Note Sessions. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Miller Lite. Thank you to the Metro for letting us hang out here in their amazing Top Note Theater right here on the 4th floor of the Haunted Theater. And when we have one of these again, we would love to see each and every one of you come out. We'd really appreciate it. And yeah, enjoy the show tonight, the Hood Internet. Thank you. Good night.